Morning, everybody. I know it's weird. Another video this morning. But I'm getting up. I've been getting up so early. And nothing else to do. I don't want to bang around too much. Oh, that burned. That coffee burned. Ooh. Careful, Tommy. Y'all say a prayer for Fred, my dog Fred. I do something for him sneaky now and then. Him and Baxter came out with me this morning, and so I got him some canned dog food. Put their dry dog food in and just drizzled the juice on it. Oh my God, Fred is losing his mind. He's like a crackhead, man. He's got to stop and breathe. If you can hear his collar banging down there, he is in heaven. I think he's gonna make sure he gets that juice out of every nugget in there, man. Oh, Fred. Oh, Freddie, no balls. But blessings, huh? How about that picture? That's my grandbaby, Madeline Louise McInnes. I call her Lulu. I'm gonna be seeing her here in a week and a half. Thanksgiving. We're gonna meet at my parents for Thanksgiving. That'd be nice. Such a sweet baby. Yeah, they were all panicky when we were out there. She won't take a bottle. She has to go to daycare. She won't take a bottle. I said, she crying and fussing and getting all upset. And they're like, no. And I said, why are you worried about it? If she's hungry, she'll eat from that bottle. And I took her and gave her a bottle, walked around with her. She took it. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. She's used to her mama. I said, if anybody strange is going to do it, it can't be the same situation. You can't sit down with her and hold her like her mother does. It's got to be a whole new thing. So I walked her around and she went to sucking on it. And I'm like, see, she will do it. So don't worry about it. And now at daycare, they're like, oh, she drank 4 ounces in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. New parents are funny. I don't think we were that way, but probably weren't. Oh, it is a word. She's not eating. She'll eat. Wake and bake. First one of the morning. I am seriously thinking about ordering one of those hydrogen Brown's gas machines. I really am. I'm hurting. Oh, and I went on the website and I sent him an email saying, hey, this is what's going on with me. I want to spend $2,000. If this thing ain't gonna give me any relief, you know, I don't see myself doing that. And I'd really, rather not go there and go spend that kind of money and it not help me. I'm sure it'll help me for a lot of things, but I want it for this one specific thing. I've got to be able to walk. I gotta be able to talk, sit, and I gotta be able to drive. Right now, this ain't no good. I'm not enjoying this at all. It's no fun. I want to play a new game. I don't like this one. This sucks. But we are blessed either way. The amount of blessings in our lives are usually always underreported. underreported. Too many people are, it's just not good enough. They want more. They want more. Even the good old Christians that are like, oh, no, I'm blessed. They always want more. They always want more. Me and Kathy are talking strategy of after this gig is up. How do we downsize? Are we gonna live in the RV? Or are we gonna build a barn dominium? What are we gonna do? Were you waiting and hoping for what, Alan? What are you talking about? Here, I'll send you the link. It's kind of cold outside. You don't have to get out in the cold yet. There you go. Oh no, do you have a good enough signal? Oh, you don't have your stuff out there. I'm sorry. You got all your stuff's down here in the garage. Well, I turned the heater on down here in the garage for you, Alan, if you heard this way. And the link is there in the chat for anybody that wants to come on. If anybody starts watching, I don't have them. It just hit me. I know. I realize. But who wants to hear you talk anyway? Right? Aren't you just another pretty face? I'm just gonna sit you up there like eye candy. Alan's eye candy. Oh my God. Kathy, where were we? We were shopping the other day, and this guy walks past and she goes, "Hey, Lee, are you accusing me of being high, Lee? Because you start right off with, hi, Tommy, and it's not a hi, it's a hi. Welding, huh? What are you welding up, Lee? Arc welding, TIG welding, brazing, soldering. What are you doing? Welding is a very broad term, Mr. Charles. A very broad term. Can you tell I've watched court TV shows before? I know how to talk like a lawyer. I can say stuff like that. What is your definition of welding, sir? I taught myself how to weld. My dad had taught my brother, and nobody ever cared to teach me. And I was answering the phone at the shop, and I just went back there and turned on the damn welder and got me a couple of pieces of angle iron and just started going at it, teaching myself. As I watched them do it, most everything I learned from my dad for air conditioning, heating, mechanical. Seriously, shit, I had to learn it by osmosis. Arc welding, good. Had to learn it by osmosis. I was always having to look over my dad and brother's shoulders. What are y'all fixing in there? What do you mean the green wire by the red? I can't even see the wires. So, yeah, I'll say it. I'm a super genius. That's a good cartoon. Y'all remember that cartoon? Is it Bugs Bunny? What's his name? So I don't know about their leak, but I know here, if you're a good welder, you can make some coin. Yeah, I don't know about there. We're in South Africa, but I would hope that you could, same as anywhere, a good high skill welder would be worth their weight, man. Pay them good. Well, all I ever learned I know how to solder. I know how to and I know how to arc weld. I know how to weld with a low temp with acetylene. It's not quite soldering, like you do plumbing with hard drawn. I don't know how many people understand welding terminology. Morning, Fred. You feel better now, buddy? Look at that belly. Woo! You and Baxter are in heaven. You sent me. I just sent you a link. You just sent me a link for what? What would you send me a link for? You want me to show something? Oh, you want me to show something? Oh, from Fat Kenny. Oh, you didn't say that. You didn't say that, Alan. Here we go. Let's share this. What did Alan send? That sucks, dude. Sent something from Fat Kenny. Is this it? The deepest secrets of all.
I promise to show you something now that I've never talked about before, and that will be in the 4th edition of my free book, Not Selling Anything, Uncovering the Missing Secrets of Magnetism. Okay, right now we're looking at a magnet underneath the ferrocell, invented by my buddy, Tim. And here you can see, moving clockwise, brighter lines. These are just fed by standard hardware LEDs. Okay. Now underneath that, moving in a seemingly opposite direction, or counterclockwise, you will see dimmer lines. The dimmer lines is the opposite face of the magnet that is furthest away from the surface of the ferrocell. The ferrocell are two perfectly optically flat pieces of glass, in between which is a special solution that is less than 1 micron thin. If you're actually to have this ferrocell in your possession, you would actually see holographic depth far deeper than any hologram, even the best art hologram that the world has ever seen. And this is less than 1 micron thin. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Let's first take a look at what we're looking at, then understand what we're looking at. Because descriptions are one thing, explanations are another. So here you see it. Clockwise brighter lines and seemingly counterclockwise dimmer lines. So what do the dimmer lines represent? Now, we hold a position that is irrefutable, that there is a double vortex in either pole of a magnet. We think that one side is moving clockwise and the other side is moving counterclockwise, but that's a spatial vector. In reality, the truth is, and this is something I've already mentioned, I'll get to the main point here in a second. The truth is that both are moving in exactly the same direction. If you place your hands like this and move them opposite each other in a way,
this is you,
similar moving in each other.
That's one millimeter thick.
This one's moving counterclockwise, and on the other side, this one's moving counterclockwise. If you move them clockwise, they're also
Okay, Kenny, I understand. Move on.
Each one, this hand's moving clockwise, and the other hand's moving clockwise. So the vector of inverse movement is only a spatial vector. Both are, in reality, moving in the exact same direction. These curvilinear circles, okay, you need to understand something else. It is amazing, and this is the most fundamental principle of the universe, and yes, I don't care if it sounds hubristic or boastful, but I'm the first person on Earth to figure out what magnetism is, how magnetism works, and that it can exist no other way. Simplicity is divinity. If you want to talk about Occam's razor, the most simplest explanations must be the true ones. There is nothing possibly conceivable that is more simplex than this. Explaining it, however, is not simple. The explanation is not simple. Really, the main reason it's not simple is because human comprehension of geometers, notion of geometry and metageometry, space and counter space, the conjugate principles of force and motion, inertia and acceleration are not anything we learned in college, high school, or anywhere else. Don't learn it in college either. I've hung out in university libraries for countless years. Will not read about this stuff anywhere. Okay, now let's come to comprehension. I'll explain something to you and you'll understand something. And I'm going to show you something for the first time, so bear with me, okay? Something that you'll love, something that's wonderful. That movie, 2010, Space Odyssey. And he asked the mystery old guy, said, what's going to happen? And the old guy says, something wonderful. So I'll amaze you here in a second, okay? Let's explain this first. Okay, we know that the brighter lines is the closest face of the magnet. The dimmer lines that are moving seemingly the opposite direction are actually moving the exact same direction. And these are all curvilinear vectors. But the light is shooting in from here. Notice we have bright lines and we have voids. Bright lines, voids. Either side. You can look at this side or the other side. Okay, what is this? It's not additive and destructive interference like we're talking about in the double slit experiment with the laser, but the principle is still the same. It's a conjugate principle that there's a double vortex on either side of any magnet. And a magnet, of course, has spatial vectors. Polarity is only the definition of the inverse of counter space. So why are there black voids here and then bright lines, black voids and lines? Same thing for either side. Think about it a second. It's the same principle that we think of as destructive and constructive interference. Hold on, I'm going to show you something neat in a second. You have to bear with me. You have to build up to understanding the comprehension of this geometry that defines a reciprocating precessional hyperboloid that extrapolates itself out as the hypertrochoidal pattern that we see here. This pattern, you see a spirograph pattern or hypertrochoid pattern. So why voids, bright line, voids, bright lines? Why? The light is absent here because the vector that is moving where there is no light on either side of this magnet is where the centripetal convergent vortex is coming in. The light is disappearing. You see this black spot right here in the center, this huge black spot that will appear on any magnet, whether it's a spherical magnet, a conical magnet, a donut magnet, a flat magnet, a square magnet, a circular magnet. It all looks the same underneath the ferrocell. Because magnetism is magnetism is magnetism is magnetism, and a magnet is a magnet is a magnet. It has no differentiation as far as the geometry of the magnet, whether it's spherical, conical, cubical, doesn't matter. Because magnetism
That just hit
and
me.
inertia.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That just hit me that each one of those openings in that diagram is a vortex in itself. Each one is a little boom boom energy pocket.
It's crazy.
Each one's an energy pocket. That's pretty crazy. Wow. That's pretty cool stuff, Kenny. And no, Kenny, if you're the only one to ever do it, you can say I'm the only one to ever do it. It's okay.
He has this thing in about
Motion, inertia,
8
acceleration
minutes.
are
Where
transcendent.
I guess
to
completely wrong.
spatial
He's going to
geometry
hold another
that
magnet,
magnet
a magnet over
is
the
compressed
top.
into.
Now we're trying to listen. Let us watch. What did he say there? All right, Kenny.
Inertia, force and motion, inertia, and acceleration are transcendent to the spatial geometry that magnet is compressed into and formed as. Well, let me show you something else, okay?
Show me.
This black spot right here is where the light has disappeared. It cannot penetrate this spot, nor can it exist here. This is the point of central convergence, where light is literally sucking down like a drain down a hole, okay? And places where you do see bright lines, either on this side or the dimmer lines on the other side, that is where the centrifugal divergence, the true magnetism, exists. Where magnetism, literally the loss of inertia, as defined by force and motion, is being blown out. Centrifugal divergence is where the white lines exist. Centripetal convergence are where the black spots exist. That's not the point that I was building to. Let me show you
The
something.
corona of an
Now I have a magnet
eclipse is
underneath here.
magnetic
I have the ferrocell on top of it.
resonance.
So what happens if you think I were to put a magnet on top of this? What would change? If I put it, let's assume that this is the South Pole. Let's assume that I put another magnet to the South Pole, the South Pole. Okay. magnetic repulsion in the crudest sense, which does not really define what's going on. It's a dielectric convergence or dielectric voidance or a dielectric countervoidance. So what happens if you think I put South Pole against South Pole? Will the black spot get bigger because I'm increasing force and motion? It certainly will. You won't be able to see the vantage point, but I'll show it to you, okay? We'll do it off at an angle here so you can see
That
it.
Kenny invented the Ferris
Oh,
cell.
cool. That's pretty cool. No,
Get a better
freaking
grip.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty
I need an
cool.
old magnet. Otherwise, I don't want to slip out of my hands. Because it's
Get a good grip
powerful.
on it, Kenny.
Okay, so if I bring it closer, you'd actually see, and you can't see because I don't have the angle at that spot right now.
That's funny.
If I get closer, you can see what's going on here.
What?
There's a black spot building right in the center there. Now, if I bring these two magnets together, it will be exactly the same
What's that one?
as far as the
I
field.
can't hear you. Hold on, guys. I heard that. I didn't hear the rest. Yeah, we got everybody in here. They're sure getting up and around early.
Cut the she one.
Oh, right behind you. Is that silver one right there? Right there. Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you, Alan. All right, let's get back to Kenny.
And
That
the
was pretty
pressure
cool.
mediation is concerned, if I were looking, think about this now. Pause your brain and concentrate your damn brain a second. When I place these two magnets together in what you would crudely call magnetic attraction, is increasing inertia and acceleration. So what I'll be looking at here, the ferrocell will be the dead center of a magnet.
Yes.
Because when you bring two magnets together and they snap together, what I'll be looking at here in the ferrocell is the dead center of a magnet. They will be close enough that they will be one magnet. So what do you think will happen? Will it be the inverse of a black spot like we see here, as the light is disappearing down the point of increasing
That's what I
inertia and
thought.
acceleration? Or will there be a gigantic white disk of light?
Corona effect of an eclipse.
At the center of every magnet, there is no magnetism.
Right.
If we're able to go to the center of the Earth,
If you add to it, you can
The
just
point
enlarge that
or the center
magnetic.
of gravity, if you
force,
will.
I'm
Gravity
guessing.
does not exist.
That's what.
Gravity is not an autonomous field modality. Of course, gravity exists, that which we call gravity. But gravity is absolutely no different than magnetic attraction. What is specifically dielectric voidance? The only difference is the attribution. In the case of a magnet, it's coherent. In the case of gravity, it's incoherent. So, at the center of the point of gravity, like the center of the Earth, the center of the Sun, there is no gravity. So at the center of the strong field, there is not that field. At the center of every magnet, there is zero magnetism. You see that underneath the ferrocell. You can see that underneath magnetic viewing film. You can even see it if you were to bring two magnets together with a Gauss meter at the center. So, we know what's going to be at the center. Is it going to be a black spot or a gigantic disk of light? What do you think the answer is? We're creating one magnet out of two. You'll notice as I get it closer, hard to keep from snapping together, I don't want to break the glass, that at first, black hole gets a little larger. Notice the flux line is diverging. You see that? Now wait, what happens when I bring it together? Look at what's forming before I bring it together. You see that that ring of light?
Mhm, big white.
As I get closer, let me get it so you can get a better view. As I get closer, the black turns into a ring of light.
Wow, pretty cool.
I'm good.
See if I can zoom in so you can see it. Here we go. Hold on a second. Here we go. A ring of light.
Just made a ring of light.
What you're
Cool.
seeing is
It's like the
center
totality
of the
corona.
magnet. These
when
two
it
magnets are now
flares
effectively
off.
one. They're separated by a couple thin pieces of precision glass. In the center where no magnetism exists, there's a halo of light. Oh, that almost sounds spiritual. Yeah, did you go figure that one, huh? So now let's take a look at something else. We move the magnets away so I don't destroy my iPad. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, let's turn on the iPad. And let's take a look at what it is we think we're seeing. With the simplex demonstration.
Just knew you've been into magnets and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's hit play.
I'm waiting.
There are no straight lines in the universe, so we're talking about a point line divergence. Let's reset that.
Nice.
Curved linear. This is the hypertrochoid. Reciprocating precession.
Baxter. Baxter.
It's as simple as that.
Take it outside.
This pattern of the hypertrochoid. That is the hypertrochoid pattern, what you would call the spider graph pattern. This is a toroid. The center, the same pattern you see underneath the magnet. And the center of that hypertrochoid, the hypertrochoid is only the flat two-dimensional image of the torus, or the donut. In the inverse image, the donut represents magnetism, okay? That is magnetism. So, what sits as the conjugate inversed image to the donut? It's the hyperbola that reciprocates. That's the point, the locus of the loss of inertia. 0 point energy, the ether, everything in the universe is electrical. But electrical is a field modality phenomenon. There is something that precedes the electrical. Because electricity is phi times psi equals Q in Planck of electrification. Phi and psi, dielectricity times magnetism equals Q in Planck of electrification. So electricity doesn't come first. I'm just saying that the universe is electrical. Hold on a second. Let me get in focus here. It's hard to focus on this dim stuff. So you are seeing the torus. These bright lines, they're going clockwise. The side faces to you, closest to you. The darker lines, moving in seemingly the opposite direction, are in fact moving in the exact same direction. But the spatial vector of the polarity that defines a magnet is the inverse of counter space, inverse of inertia, inverse of 0 point energy. The conjugate principle of the universe is magnetism and dielectricity, reciprocating precessional hyperboloid. The dark lines represent centripetal convergence. The white lines represent centrifugal divergence. So what you're seeing in the white lines is true magnetism. The light is actually hitting it and bending it along the lines of centrifugal divergence. The centripetal convergence, where light is literally going like water down a drain, is where you see these black voids in between the white lines. Okay? As you can see, these lines that are moving seemingly clockwise are closest to you. They're brighter. The darker lines is the other side of the magnet. Well, they seem to be moving counterclockwise. No, they're moving in the exact same direction, only inverse to your spatial perspective. Space has no attributes. Space is nothing. Space is the air inside this donut. The cream filling inside the donut of magnetic divergence is literally the farts, the after effect, the remnant remains, the fecal matter of the loss of inertia, which necessitates magnetic divergence and reciprocation. As Faraday called magnetism, he called it the dielectric field. And oddly enough, one of the first experts in electrical engineering was the guy who got closest, even closer than Tesla, to understanding what magnetism was in its relationship to dielectricity, because only dielectricity exists. Only. Magnetism is the loss of that inertia. Electricity is a hybrid of dielectricity and magnetism. That which we call gravity does not exist. Gravity is nothing other than incoherent dielectric acceleration. What you call magnetic attraction and that which is gravity are the exact same damn thing, 100% sure as shit, right as rain, irrefutable, undeniable. Magnetic attraction and gravity are one and the same thing. The only thing that distinguishes them is coherency. In a magnet, we have coherency. In gravity, we have total incoherency. Enough quantity affects quality. Enough quantity affects quality. There's only one field, and there are three field modalities. Electricity and magnetism, and that which we call gravity, they're all the same thing. There's no need for a grand unified field theory. They've always been unified. The only thing that's not unified is human comprehension of the nature of these field modalities in the relationship to one another. And they are all one and the same thing. To think of grand unified field theory is as stupid as a moron, a caveman, a troglodyte trying to unify water, steam, and ice. We would roll our eyes. Well, I'm trying to unify water, steam, and ice. Really? They're all one and the same thing. Well, I haven't unified. Well, they're already unified. It's that simple. Actually, I should have said it's that simplex. It's not simple because human comprehension makes it difficult to explain, making it therefore not simple. But the principle itself, as it stands by itself, all alone, with nobody else trying to figure it out with their caveman brains, it is not simplex. It's only not simplex because human beings are very stupid. It's not that that it is that difficult to comprehend. It is that we are that stupid. Oh, we've got computers, iMacs, and iPhones. We're so smart. Really? You think so? There's one irreducible fact. It's irrefutable. Every branch of science throughout history has always thought that they were right. They always thought they were so advanced. And 100 years later, sometimes 200, we look back on those people and go, oh my God, they were so stupid. Timeless, irrefutable, undeniable. That always happens. It always will happen. It's true now.
Well, and there you go. Nice. Nice, Kenny. Way to go, Kenny. he sure doesn't tolerate ignorance, does he? Well, not, to me, and Alan said, I showed you that because he knew I'd been messing with some magnets. And just for me, that visual that I get when you push those together, and that resistance, that's all those vortexes, all that electricity happening right between my hands. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've been playing with these. I've been trying to figure out a way to, I'm going to set up one of those tracks and set up a deal where, the repulsion of them can make a perpetual motion deal. I've been thinking about that. I've been playing with these magnets a lot. I've been playing with them a bunch. That, and I've seen advertised, there's starting to be people treating illnesses with magnets and stuff, and syndromes and things. I may check and see. I may check and see if anybody around here offers it. I know my pain management nurse practitioner, she printed me out a deal for a tuning fork. And I already have a tuning fork. I understand the tuning fork things. I want to know more about these magnets. And I'm guessing at the frequency is going to work a lot on the same principle of the vortex and electricity and frequency. And, like he was explaining, the black parts are the vortexes where there's lack of inertia and matter, and the other parts is pure energy that makes light. That's electricity. Pretty cool. Pretty freaking cool. I'll be thinking on that the rest of the day. The link is back up here in the chat if anybody wants to come on. There's 6-7 people in there, I guess. Come on and talk about some magnetism. The whole idea that back in the
Right,
the
Karen.
early days, I guess, early history, there were people at least talking about, you know, the magnetism and all, and that they were onto something. Wow, what are you doing? Is he trying to come on my show? I hear him. Is he there? He is there. I added you.
Yeah, I had a little back, I heard a little bit of echo, but it seems okay now.
I can hear myself there in the garage.
Oh, we're still good?
Yeah, I can see you. I just, whenever I talk, that's why I went, hey, what's going on? I could hear you out there, or myself,
Wow.
but that's okay. No, I was looking at something. Where did it go? Where is it? Yeah. No, not that. Where did my deal go? Oh, that's just me.
They're very fascinating the way that made that ring of light.
Right, that was pretty cool.
It reminded me so much of the corona around a total eclipse when everybody keeps waiting. Oh, you got to see that corona when it all covers it up. It sparkles,
Right.
A lot of weird stuff going on. I wanted to, I had watched a couple of Fat Kenny's, I call him Fat Kenny because it's nicer than just the way he describes himself as
Right.
as a bald tattooed monkey, so I don't think I'm being mean to him. He's very self-effacing, but he was talking about in the 1870s, there was a math revolution where they did away with Euclidean geometry and they brought in what developed the quantum physics. That all started in the 1870s when there was a math book. It was like something Principia by Isaac Newton, but it replaced it. 2,000 pages. The first 700 pages was what they called a proof that 1 + 1 = 2. So it took them 700 pages to prove 1 + 1 = 2 because they were using the new math. They were adding the things that later on Einstein used that went opposite of what Tesla was. And whether you believe he's a real person or not, his math was real to show us Einstein was a joke, and we're supposed to know that. And it's the same thing with us today, Tommy. Like what Kenny is having a hard time proving to the math world is because he doesn't fit in the math world, is that he's right about a lot of things. And it's the same thing with us. We spent years trying to find out what's right about the Bible. And we believe that we have, you believe that we have, but everyone else still wants 700 pages worth of proof. That 1 + 1 = 2.
I'm glad you brought that up. I have a video I want to share about math and
Cool.
how math isn't so much the which one was it? No, it wasn't that one. This one.
Saw what? Trigonometry. You know trigonometry. And then figure out the distance to the sun.
Hold on.
But yes, is the thing. Were you taught how we know it? Well, possibly your answer would be trigonometry. A hero of Ball Earth believers everywhere states this is the way that we know. You can verify the distance of the sun based off what?
Trigonometry.
Using trigonometry, we can then figure out the distance to the sun. But the sun and the moon appear to be the same size in the sky. We use trigonometry, and I guess the moon is also 93 million miles away. Is that what you were taught? Me neither. So I'm confused. I thought that math could be used to give us these facts. Does math tell us what reality is? Because the same religious zealot hero has also repeatedly cried,
There's no volume.
I don't know, dear. Sorry, did I mute the wrong thing?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay. What, dear?
Where's all the little ones?
There are some out there. Some are in here. Don't worry about the dogs. Dear.
we have.
Alan knows about the grass.
Well, ask any astronomer or fanboy of NASA or liar like Steve McCrae, and you'll get told it is 100% fact. It is as true can be.
Well, if there was no volume, I'll go back. This is a good
Were you
video.
taught how we know it? Well, possibly your answer would be trigonometry. A hero of ball Earth believers everywhere states this is the way that we know. You can verify the distance of the sun.
Correct.
Based off what?
Trigonometry.
Using trigonometry, we can then figure out the distance to the sun. But the sun and the moon appear to be the same size in the sky. So if we use trigonometry, and I guess the moon is also 93 million miles away, is that what you were taught? Me neither. So I'm confused. I think that math could be used to give us these facts. Does math tell us what reality is? Because the same religious zealot hero has also repeatedly cried,
Math is reality.
"You taught this?" Well, if it is reality, then the sun is 93 million miles. It can't be, say, I don't know, 129 million miles. Both can't be true, right? Both are certainly not reality. So obviously, if we
Math is reality.
then math must be able to tell us which is right.
Sorry, man.
We have a problem.
True. Solar system that we have. Well, ask any astronomer or fanboy of NASA or liar like the Steve McCrae, and you'll get told it is 100% fact. It is as true can be. Well, I shall disprove this at once and show how a presupposition, dogmatic faith can make their religious beliefs seem true when they are anything but that.
Sorry, guys.
So we've been told that the sun is 93 million miles away. How do we know this? Well, let's begin with some facts. What do we know about the sun? Well, it emits light. What else? The rest is a lot like the idea of Santa delivering gifts to every child on Christmas Eve. Even little children think it sounds crazy, but because authority figures are the ones telling them the story and they don't know any better, and, well, cookies are eaten in the morning, it becomes believable to most children. So much the same, the ideas of the distance to the sun come with the same nuggets. You and I might not know any better, so we look to the authorities for the truth. So we are told that it's 93 million miles, and with that comes some eaten cookies in the morning. They have filled our knowledge gap with their own cleverly constructed explanations of what we see, and then all we can see is what looks like beautifully wrapped presents. And then we find some cookie crumbs as evidence of their fictional Santa Claus. One way they do this is with the idea of angular size. So back to our facts. The sun emits light. Anything else that we know about the sun? Sure, we know its angular size or its apparent diameter. This is the apparent size or angular diameter of a sky item. How large something appears in our eye or telescope. The sun and moon both appear to be about 31 or 32 arc minutes, or that's equal to 1/2 degree. So I'll point out something that I certainly wasn't taught in school, and it's no wonder why. Scaling invariance. Feel free to look it up on Wikipedia, and you'll see that in physics, mathematics, statistics, and economics, scale invariance is a feature of objects or laws that do not change if scales of length, energy, or other variables are multiplied by a common factor. As long as all of your inputs are scaled correctly, the entire body is indifferent. It doesn't vary. One of those things, the entire solar system model. But wait, the mathematics of the solar system is facts. Indisputable fact, right? Well, not when the entire models are based off of angular size, because angular size tells us what size something is in our eye, not its true distance or its true size. We need more info. So hold up here. I thought
Math is reality.
it has to be. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's reality. 30 plus 15 equals 45. Period. Well, is that true? A man has 30 cars and he added 15 cars. He now has 45 cars. Is this true? Well, if there was such a man and he did add said cars to his 30-car collection, then the statement is true. Is it reality? Well, I'd have to first prove said man exists, as do his 30 cars, as do the 15 he added. That makes it reality. So is math reality? Well, only when all elements of the equation are proven true is math reality. Is 30 plus 15 45? Yes, true. Or is it? What if it was 30 plus 15 half cars? Oh, that's different. We need to prove and know what each number refers to. If I have $3 million and I add $1 million, does that mean I have $4 million? Well, if I had $3 million in reality and added $1 million in reality, then I'd have $4 million. But to claim it is reality, I must first prove that I have what I claim. So if the entire model of the solar system is based off of angular size, who has proven the actual distance and sizes of said items? Is the solar system reality, or is it a cartoon? I mean, is the solar system a fact, or is it fiction? This clearly has to be solved already, correct? What if I told you it wasn't? What if it was all just numbers? What if it was all just math, and they wanted you to believe that math was reality, but they forgot about the other part? They have to prove all the elements of the math. Let me explain. So the angular size of the sun and moon is approximately 31 or 32 arc minutes, which equals 0.53 degrees. Now, that does work for a sun 93 million miles away and 864,337 miles wide. But it also works for a sun 229 million miles away and 2 million miles wide. Wait, what are you saying? The sun would look way bigger in the sky. No, it wouldn't. It would look the same as if it was 93 million, or if it was 46,701,000 miles away and 432,000 miles wide. The distances and sizes can be scaled indifferently. Our observations from Earth would be identical. If the sun was 23,351,000 miles away and 216,000 miles wide, it would be the same as if it were 11,675,000 miles away and 108,000 miles wide. Identical to the sun that's 6,053,900 miles distant and 56,000 miles in diameter, which is no different than a sun 3,026,900 miles away and 28,000 miles wide, which is just the same as a sun 1.5 million miles away and 14,000 miles wide. Okay, hold up. What about our orbit around the sun? Well, sure. You know the distance, which is the radius of our orbit. 2 pi r is this 9,504,780 miles as our yearly orbit. Divide that by 365 and that by 24, and you get 1,085 miles per hour as our new speed instead of 66,000 miles per hour. And our observations change none. And since you feel no spin or travel at all, well, then nothing changes at all. Man, math is so reality. Whether the sun is 756,730 miles away and 7,000 miles wide, or even, heaven forbid, 3,500 miles away and 32 miles in diameter. It makes no difference. You liar. What about eclipses? Well, as I said earlier, we can't just change the sun. We have to scale the moon too. So yes, as long as you divide or multiply by the same number, you'll be fine. So yes, the moon is 0.53 degrees as well, which works out to being 233,400 miles away and 2,159 miles in diameter, as it is about 400 times as small and 400 times as close as the sun. But it would work the same if the sun was 100 times as big and 100 times as far, so that the moon was actually 58,376 miles away and 540 miles wide, well, then an eclipse would happen because the sun is 100 times as far, so 6,053,900 miles away and 56,000 miles wide. Or the moon could be 14,594 miles away and 135 miles wide. Or 864 miles away and 8 miles wide.
Oh, wow.
Heaven forbid, 3,567 miles away and 33 miles wide. Could be half that size, 1,729 miles away and 16 miles wide. And then the sun could be double at 3,567 miles and 32 miles wide. Same observation from Earth, of course, because math is reality. Now, some things could help us determine which distance was more likely to be correct. For example, the inverse square law of light. It says that given a certain brightness or intensity, it is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. So if we know how bright the moon is, each time we half our distance, the brightness increases by 4 times. So you see, we can say the moon is 100 lumens, and it doesn't really matter which number we place on there, as the result will be the same. So at 240,000 miles, we have 100 lumens. At 120,000 miles, we have 400 lumens. At 60,000, we have 1,600 lumens. At 30,000, we have 6,400 lumens, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, till we get down to 1,000 miles distance. When we're 1,000 miles away from the moon, the lumens should be 6,553,000. So if we divide that by the original 100, we see that from 1,000 miles away, the moon would be 65,530 times brighter than it is from Earth. Is that what we saw? Well, here's some photos from Apollo 17 from 800 miles from the moon. And you tell me, is that moon 65,530 times as bright as it is from Earth? Of course not. So one thing or the other isn't true. Either we've never been to the moon or the moon is far closer. What can't be true is the moon is the distance that they tell us and that man has been there.
Wow.
Commercials. Damn commercials.
Another way that we can determine if the distances we are given are correct is to imagine the sun, I don't know, say it's 1,000 miles away. The sun would take up the entire day sky, correct? Okay, so let's make it now 93 million miles away. Okay, now if you hold a dime out at arm's length, that's about the size of the sun at 93 million miles or 8 light minutes. So now double that distance. Well, that's now a light 16 minutes. Okay, double it again. Well, now we're at a light half hour. Okay, double that again, and we're now at a light hour, and I doubt you'd be able to see the sun. But let's multiply that by 24, and now, finally, we're at a light day. No chance you would see the sun. But now we still have to multiply that by 365 times more to get to a light year. Think about that, people. How would we see any star, considering no star is that close? Nonsense, mathematical reality. I mean, really, to think that we could see 25 trillion miles, remember that a trillion seconds is 31,000 years. Think about that and realize that the closest star, other than the sun, is 25 trillion miles. Yole. Now, wait a minute, you yell. Wouldn't the planets have to change as well? Well, of course. Their orbits, sizes, and distance would all be scaled appropriately. Here's an easy way to see it in action. Take these numbers 0, 3, 6, and start doubling. 12, 24, 56, 108. Okay, now add 4 to each. So 0 becomes 4, 3 becomes 7, 6 becomes 10, 12 becomes 16, 24 becomes 28, 56 becomes 60, and 108 becomes 112. Now divide by 10. So 4 becomes 0.4, 7 becomes 0.7, 10 becomes 1.0, 16 becomes 1.6, 28 becomes 2.8, 60 becomes 6.0, and 111 or 112 becomes 11.2. Now, does that look familiar? Well, it should. 0.4 is Mercury's AU, 0.7 is Venus, 1.0 is Earth, 1.6 is Mars, 2.8 is Ceres, 6.0 is Jupiter, and 11.2 is Saturn. Now, of course, those are approximate numbers as they change based on their distance from the sun, which is changing all the time. So now you have the distances from the sun, 93 million miles times the AU. So Mercury is 37.2 million, Venus is 65.1 million, Earth is 93 million, Mars is 148.8 million, Jupiter is 558 million, and Saturn's about 1 billion. Of course, you can then figure out exactly what their distance from Earth is. with Mercury being 56 million, Venus being 26 million, Mars being 34 million, and Jupiter being 367 million miles from Earth. But what if 1 AU is actually 3,567 miles, not 93 million? Well, 3,567 is to 93 million as 1 is to 26,072. So scale it all by 1 26,072nd, or I'm not really sure. Then you can even figure out the distance from the Earth. So Mercury is 2,147 miles, Venus is 997, Mars is 1,304, all miles from Earth. Now wait, wouldn't they need to be smaller? And, well, of course, scaling invariance. So Mercury is actually 2,147 miles away, and with its angular size, it would come out to 0.11 miles, so that would be 603 feet in diameter. And Venus at 997 miles from Earth would have a 0.28 mile diameter, or 1,520 feet. And Jupiter would be 14,076 miles away and 3.40 miles wide. And we can check our work as well, because 3.4 miles is 1/10 of the sun size at 33 miles in diameter, which matches the current model with Jupiter 84,000 miles wide and the sun 860,000 miles wide. No, you cry. Give me my Santa back. Wouldn't gravity be different? Well, would it?
Be my Santa bag.
Whatever amount of gravity has been given to the Earth or the Sun or any of the other planets is based off mass. Well, we can easily just change the mass of the Sun. Who is weighing it? The answer is no one. And we can change the mass of the Earth. Who is weighing it? Cavendish in his shed? Give me a break. And quit it with your religious stories. It's becoming silly. But clearly, the silliest thing ever said is
Math is reality.
which is the biggest load of bull ever stated as fact. I mean, really. If you ever hear that clown trying to assert that again, tell him you don't care about his religious presuppositional beliefs, and then tell him that you listen when he has some sort of proof or scientific evidence for any of the mathematical figures that his holy priests have taught him to calculate. I'm very proud that some of you have become quite proficient at your religious dogma. I, however, am interested in the truth. And all of you ballers have proven again and again that you have no interest in the truth at all. What you need to realize is that fighting against it is futile. Your scientific evidence for your religious beliefs is nil. What you think you have is nothing more than crumbs from Santa that you continue to try and force on us as meaning Santa exists. I know it sucks to find out that your parents are actually the ones who ate the cookies and left the crumbs for you to find. Well, your physics books have been written with every detail about every single crumb, and they can be calculated and divided, multiplied and manipulated, chapter after chapter, lecture after lecture. But if you just use your own brain instead of theirs, you will see that there is no Santa and there is no 93 million mile distant sun. It's all just math, and math is not reality. No matter how many times or how many curse words that Red puts around it, it isn't reality. Do you get it yet, Red? And until you can come and bring something other than your religious dogma and pathetic attempts to recruit us as fellow parishioners, until you can actually provide evidence, not just some math that proves only that your model is one of a near infinite amount of possibilities with no evidence other than, but my holy book. Until you have more, and until you can prove that math is reality, then in your own words,
I recommend that you shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's one of the best ones I've seen right there. That's
Fantastic.
sense.
Fantastic.
You know, that makes total sense on the math, and several people have said it, but not that way. Is that when you make the model, you can put any numbers in there you want, and they'll come out because you made it. It doesn't. It's not reality. It's just whatever you say, and that makes so much sense that these people have been duping us because they have a white coat and they put out a huge number and tell you you can't understand this.
Right. That's their whole is that we're stupid, they're smart, why bother?
But I love the fact that, you know, the sun's 3,500 miles away. You know, that's all it is. It's 3,500 miles. The moon, you know, approximately the same on scale. The actual reality is that's more likely than 93 freaking miles away. That is
They couldn't have us in the position we are right now without their quantum math, quantum physics, dark matter.
Yeah, and but like you said, their Bible, they're everywhere. Every schoolroom has their Bible in it, and if anybody disputes it, everybody goes to the Bible. Wow, look, it's right here in this book or this book, and it's been proven. No, they don't have any proof. It's just numbers thrown out there that work together. They work together when it's when it comes out to the end. See, it makes a ball 93 million miles away. See,
there's a psalm that says, I've become wiser than all my teachers. And for years, everybody always only applied that to the Lord Jesus Christ. But I think that we have to look at the world's teachers and realize that they're all in it together. And it's not hard for somebody that says, I trust the Bible, to be wiser than all the math teachers that have swallowed the hokum about Schrodinger's cat can be dead or alive, and that there's all this math works. Is all we have to do is just put in 97% dark matter and it works.
Right.
It doesn't mean we think we're smarter than everybody in the world to know that, based on my experience, these wise teachers of the world are millstoning me. They want me to eat the cookies and tell my kids there's a Santa Claus, and then later on just say, we had to tell you that for some reason. We had to tell you
I think it's like we say for most of these people. They don't know what they're doing. They believed everything they were told from the time they were born, and they never questioned otherwise. They just don't know what they're doing. They totally believe that everything they read, and because they can do those math equations, that they're right. They don't know any different.
Based on a mindset, that's a mindset of the people in power want to help me.
Right.
They want me to be a happy feudal system serf. Serfdom is alive and well.
Right. So many of them say, look at the amount of information and knowledge that they are letting me have access to. This is all the knowledge in the world, and they're letting me access it, and as long as I regurgitate it the way they put it down, I'll go to the top, baby.
I don't think I'd ever seen it presented as well as in that video that you just showed, that that they came up with that the sun is 93 million miles away, but using their math and saying like, oh, see, we can see it, and based on this perspective, it's 93,000. Well, the math works that it's 53,000, million miles away, and then you can expand it out and say, well, it looked like that if it was this distance away. Those comparisons were very helpful.
Oh, Wits It Gets It alluded to that whole concept many times, but could never get to that point of, hey, I can take and use their same model and prove that the Earth could be 3,500 or sun could be 3,500 miles away instead of 93 million. He never got to there. He alluded to that the numbers are just the numbers, and you can use them in any way you want. He just didn't get to that final step of, watch, I can show you. By your own formula, using this angular, equations, I can tell you it's any size I want, because that's the way they rig the math. They can always prove their point. You can't disprove it. Is their whole phenomenon. Is that they'll start in on a math problem that goes, for 5 chalkboards, and you get lost in the rubble, and they're like, see, I'm trying to tell you. You can't get it. You just can't get it. I would love for you to understand when it's so simple as, right, like the guy said, it is so simple, it's divine.
The emperor has no clothes, but it is so hard. We are all influenced by peer pressure. If the parade goes by and the king walks by in his underwear and everybody else is clapping and saying, "You're stupid if you can't see his beautiful clothes. It's a sign of stupidity."
Right.
They're taking people out and, putting them in an insane asylum at the beginning of the parade, and you hear about it. Oh, you can't see his clothes. They're going to think there's something wrong with you. You're going to, that when he finally rolls by, you're going to, beautiful, love it, fantastic,
Right. Well,
Wow.
carry on there for a minute, Alan. Kathy's fixing to leave.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not fixing to leave? Okay. Then I won't say bye to you yet.
I'm not making it yet.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, but the simplicity of it is what they hate. They hate the simplicity. They want to have that superiority complex, that authority, that authority stance over you because they know more than you do. It can't be that simple. It can't just be bam bam. It's not that complex.
Using their numbers, it is important to them to confuse everybody, to be able to write a 2,000-page book and that's just volume 2, and to prove 700 page that 1 + 1 = 2, and you had to do it that way,
Right.
to establish your math,
to be a proof.
right? Because they say it all came down to this one guy, Gödel. It has that diphthong G with the 2 dots above the old Gödel. And he's the one that first came up with, you can't trust math, because he developed a way of like taking equation. If A equals B, B equals A, or if A is greater than, or A equals B, and made the logical formulas, and then tried to put them in math formulas, and then said, when you use math formulas as words, you can't use math proofs anymore, so math proofs don't work. And it really, that sounds confusion, but they believed him, and they started putting numbers in for words as formulas and saying, well, they don't match up now, so these proofs can't work.
Right.
Instead of just saying, how did we build everything back in the day, with a right angle, and then, the star for the frequency patterns. How did we know how to do that?
Right.
If there is really, trigonometry doesn't work, which gives us the flower of life, the spiral graph thing, the double vortexes. We can do all of that, but they say that math is insufficient.
Right. Right. I mean, and like the magnet deal with Kenny. How many people have been on that path and got shunned, got discredited, got kicked into the psycho bin of science history? And
yeah,
I mean, it's wow.
Well, that's the thing. You have someone like what Kenny, a tattooed monkey is what he calls himself, but he invented the Ferrell cell. We wouldn't see that spiral glass pattern unless he became an expert in magnetics and said, we should be able to see this if I do this.
Right.
And now he's showing it. And guess what? The rest of the math world, they hate him.
Oh, sure.
They hate him,
Sure.
because he hates Einstein.
And his explanation there of the magnetism completely, I agree with him 100%. It explains that's what they're calling gravity. It's magnetism, and with magnets you get direct, and otherwise gravity or magnetism is indirect. It just is here everywhere you go. It's there. There's magnetic fields. It's electricity. It's frequency, and that makes complete sense to me.
Which is why I'm applying for people to be confident in their faith in the Bible.
Right.
Because they use these people who are in some cases probably smarter than us, but not wiser than us. And they're like the 12-year-old in Sunday school class that's just going to keep hitting that same question to cause doubt. That's all they want to do. They are not about improving the lives of people by saying, well, you're, 700 pages to prove to me 1 + 1 = 2, is overkill. And they have to be doing that for a reason. And they hate God.
Well, and that's one of the devil's main tenets is it creates chaos. That kind of stuff creates chaos. Very few people can do it, and then when a couple come in that can do it and want to disprove you, the whole faction goes, look at this idiot. It's right here. The math has been here forever. What are they talking about? So it's been easy for them, but it's getting harder now. People like Kenny, people like that Journalism, all that, they're coming out saying you're lying. You're lying, and we can prove it. Show us proof. Here's our proof. Where's your proof? You gotta step up. They're gonna have to step up eventually, I think. There's a lot of pressure. Look at just the people that we know, our subs and our spheres of influence who know they're lying to us. Eventually, it's got to reach a tipping point where they've got to prove in public fashion in a forum all their claims. They're gonna have to, I would think.
You don't think it proved it that when they took William Shatner up into space and he came back happy, that's just not enough to know that they went to the moon?
Right. And it's funny when you said that. I can see them at some point going, okay, y'all can send up an observer of your own, and you can see for yourself, we're going into space. And right before you go to get in the thing, they go, you tested positive for the vid. You can't go. You can't go. We'll wait. Maybe next time. And then something happens to you tragic between now and then. We tried, I can see them doing it. But it's a sad case where we've got to put the pressure on and force their hand. They have to show it. Show your work and not in some
the one thing that
5-part math equation.
Let's see, like we have Bertrand Russell, George Bernard Shaw, all of the Buckminster Fuller, all of the math people that lived back in between the wars and stuff like that were they taught what we believe about the universe right now. Right. And each one of them were
love you.
At a time when there was the Victorian age and people were wearing high collars and stuff like that. It sounds ridiculous, but all of the nudist camps all over the world where people are saying, we want to be nudists. George Bernard Shaw, Bertrand Russell, and all of those people, they were the ones that founded that movement, the naturalistic movement. They were the ones that said there is no God, there is, math isn't what you think. What we need to do is just get into the spiritual movement of back to nature. It was just a way for them to get parents to run around their children nude in front of them. They only argue because they're sex fiends and, having to tie it back into it. But looking back on those people's lives, they were not the salt of the earth. They were millstoners. They wanted to, that when children are young, it's okay to teach them about Santa Claus. They'll get why you lied later. They'll understand that this helps the world somehow, not just with the Christmas presents and now we're in the black, and stuff like that. And they're the main part of our world, man.
Right.
So we can't worry about, they don't believe us. Is it in your heart? Do you believe it?
Right. What do you believe? But the brainwashing, I started to watch a movie last night with, what's his name? One of the Boston boys called Paycheck. And the premise of this this guy's a super genius and the government and other companies hire him to reverse engineer stuff for them. And so when he's done, he knowingly lets them wipe his memory from the time he got there till that minute right then. And so he's let him do this, several times, and he's starting to have problems. And so he does one last big gig for one last paycheck. And that's where I got. And in the beginning, the part I have seen, they make it pretty plain that people are going to do just about anything for a paycheck.
Wow.
Even knowing the results, it's worth it to this guy to get that paycheck. Knowing the negative outcomes that can happen, and the guy tells him, his scientist, the guy who does his memory wipe, they're friends, and he, I don't know if you want to do this again. He's like, dude, look at this paycheck. I'll take it. So I'll have to finish that movie, but that's a lot of truth right out there in your face. We do this to people. We have geniuses. How many geniuses do they have that do stuff like that? That they wipe their memory after they've reverse engineered something.
How many people in the world are smart but just don't believe it?
Yeah.
Because we have that Dunning-Kruger effect where it seems that the dumber you are, the higher opinion you have of yourself.
Yeah, what's that called? There's a name for that. People who
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, they don't know how dumb they are, so they think they're really, really smart. And it's that's what the programming has done to us. Because they tell people that when you graduate, first grade and you have all A's, you are smart, and so on and so forth. And if you get this letter every class all the way through, you are smart. No doubt about it. You have everything you need, right? I mean, isn't that the sales package? You do this and you will be set. You will know everything you need to know.
Right. And by the time you're, leaving 8th grade, going into your freshman year, they expect you and your parents to have decided, are you going to be a welder or an electronical engineer? Because you've got to start taking those classes right now. Are you going advanced placement, AP classes, or are you going to get half your day to learn how to build a house, drive a nail? Like, today we're building a house for our shop project. We've got 30 students and 3 shifts working on it so that the government can sell a house for $200,000 when they're done with it. And all they really did was just use cheap labor, because how hard is it to, do you really need 2 years of building trade school in high school to know how to be a carpenter when it's like time to go out there and read a blueprint, pound a nail? How long does that take?
Some people, you want them to have that couple of years if they can get it.
I guess.
You just assume everybody will pick it right up like you would.
It's a hammer. It's a nail.
Not so true. I've seen people that cannot drive a nail. I've seen people that cannot handle a drill and sink a screw. I've seen some.
Oh my goodness, Tommy! I must have I watched this movie with Mel Gibson called The Sign or something like that. Aliens are invading and they're coming to, it's scary, and I lost my train of thought. But
so that's
nothing to do with that movie Signs with Mel Gibson. It's just that you're gonna believe it. They got it faked out, man. They got it so much into it.
Right. I was gonna do years ago, at least journeyman plumber, because I was staying home with the kids when they were young for about 2 years, and I worked with my dad, and to do apprentice, just to start apprenticing, I had to have this whole book where we went on this job and here's what I did for how long and every joint I made, everything I did. And then he had to sign off on it. And you had to have so many hours of that. And that's just as apprentice. And then you can start in on a journeyman's. And like he said, it's like, it's a year or more in journeyman's here for a lot of those things. And then you can go take your master's test, but you can't take your master's test until you've done journeyman. And there's people out there that can pass the master's test right away and even apprentice, but they can't go get the test, can't go do the test, can't go get a license to be a master plumber. You can't sit for the test until you've had documented apprenticeship and then journeyman, and then now we'll give you a chance to sit. Kind of crazy, isn't it?
In union cities like Chicago, to this day, at car shows, computer shows, anything else, if you buy that space, you go in and you drop off your stuff, and later on you realize, I have to, this isn't going to work with my copier here. I need to move my copier to a new location. Under the rules of something like the Chicago, Convention Center, you would have to pick up the phone and say, I need a union electrician come down here. I got to have some work done. They'll unplug your copier, move it to the new position that you want, and plug it in. Because if you do that, you're going to get fined and kicked out of the convention, because that's an electrical. You need a journeyman electrician to do that.
Right. Oh, I know.
One more thing, and to get your comment on this. In Chicago, if you're working at the Arlington Park racetrack, because it's in Cook County, you have to be a journeyman electrician to push that frickin' electric button to kick out that ticket that prints your bet on it. Those guys are all making the same $45 an hour as a guy that's out there pulling wire, building houses, building apartments, building power plants.
You think that's absurd? Yeah, and that is absurd. That really is absurd. But the first time I'd ever heard of union kind of stupid stuff like that was about like radio stations like in New York City and Chicago, that there was an audio engineer union. There was a freaking 2 or 3 different positions. The DJ just talked. An audio engineer would actually put the needle on the record, take the needle off the record, swap it out. The DJ just talked. He didn't spin those records. And it was all this union shit. When I first saw a deal about that, I was like, you have got to be freaking kidding me.
You have got to be kidding me.
And these DJs are going, what do you do, man? I was a DJ. It's my union. They're audio engineers. So somebody had to sit there. That's why they used to have all the different booths, because that's audio engineer. You don't touch those records. You don't run those ads. That's only this person. It was crazy. I could not believe that.
Yeah, I see Scotty was in Union 132 out of Chicago. My dad was 176 out of Joliet. He moved his ticket from California, where he got his journeyman's ticket, to Joliet, because he was in the loop there and knew that they were going to build 5 nuclear powerhouses within 50 miles of Joliet.
All right.
So he moved there in the 70s, and that's what he did on his retirement. He did, there are certain jobs that only union electricians can weld at, and those are in the actual power plants of a nuclear place, their control operation headquarters. They have to weld that. And my dad, when he welded, you hit one hit and the slag fell off. It looked like somebody tipped over a row of dimes. It's perfect. And, that's how he made his money. But when he found out that, and it's hard work. I mean, they were pulling those wires 100 yards through those stuff. And then we found out that there are people that basically bought their union ticket on the low for like $10,000 to get this job. And they kicked back money for 2 years from their paycheck to get a job that pays $45 an hour in 1988 to push a button at the racetrack. And that was a union electrician. And that infuriated him. But what could he do? He was 15 years in and he had to retire. Someday.
I don't feel sorry for them. They tolerated it.
He did.
He tolerated it. It's his fault. If he wants to sit there and suck on that union tit and not care about merit, not care about your abilities, your skill sets, none of that. If he was willing to overlook all of that for that security and safety.
Well, he wanted to change it. They were fighting to change it. They wanted, he was a true socialist. He wanted unions because he thought it would help everybody. But he knew, but it's just like, well, crony capitalism is an easy target right now.
Right.
But that doesn't mean there's not, that the communists aren't, the leaders of the Communist Party, from everything we know, they live like rich capitalists. They have everything they want. They have drivers pick them up in the morning. They have, get dropped off right at the front door.
Hey, be honest. Socialists live like rappers. They live above and beyond opulence. They go into the grotesque, is what socialists do. Look what what's his name Chavez did down in was it? No, it's not Colombia, but Argentina. What he did to that country.
Juan Perón.
Yeah, they live in huge castles and they have elephants and tigers. And they build their own dams and make their own lakes and stuff. I mean, geez, they did it all.
It is. It's still that is our time still. The union, non-union worker, what's going to be best for our economy. And right now, they used union workers and paid them well for a long time. Then it all went away, except for people that work in the government. Now the big unions with, how come what was it, 2008, they found 3,500 people, full-time job getting paid was surfing porn and working at the Pentagon.
Right.
But they all got off because it was an invasion of privacy for the government workers to be checking on them.
Right.
So no charges were ever filed.
Right. You're in the union, man.
If you're in the union, you got rights, man.
You have to give us 30 days notice that you're going to watch what we're surfing on the internet.
Yep.
And then we have to tell you when we're done watching you.
Right. And then all of a sudden, they'll go, their argument is always, look, if I'm on my break time and I want to buy a book on Amazon, I can. So I can search this and that. And they go, well, they're on break.
Right. Hey, they're not doing the government's work.
But there are some guys on there that, well, the main amount of porn that's being surfed is not at night. It's while people are at work.
Right.
There's still a lot of porn being surfed at night. I mean, it's right there. And I don't care, who you are. It's affected us all. It's affected us all because it's practically in the PG-13 movies now.
Right. But you're in the end times of the devil loosed when your government distributes and produces most of the pornography across the plain. It's the end times because that can't be real, right?
Right. Because they actually, I forget the name of the situation, but there was a time when the United States government took over a child porn site and ran it for a year, and then through technicalities and court,
didn't arrest anybody.
All that evidence was thrown away, but they ran it.
Right.
Distributing it.
You gotta love it, man. You just gotta love it. Well, we've been an hour and a half in, Alan. I'm gonna sign off.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. I'm gonna just drop off and let you wrap up.
Okay, bud. Appreciate it. I'll make some juice here in a minute. But yeah, a lot of that stuff, man, magnetism, the math. When I saw that stuff, I was like, hey, that's just too simple. So my big deal. I encourage everybody out there to do the same. Do you hear these people? Talking globe. just remember, they have no proof whatsoever. They're retarded. They're idiots. But don't waste your time with them. Don't waste your time. But love you all. Good vibrations, discernment, guys. Everybody have a blessed day.